We all have situations, experiences, and moments in our life when we know deep at our core we have to do something different. We have to pivot. And regardless of how big or small that pivot is, it requires us to change something in our life. And that change can feel really uncomfortable. However, it is that change that is creating something entirely new. And it is that newness that creates a very different way of life in one area or multiple areas of our life. What's this all about? It is all about reinventing thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself. I am so glad that you joined me today because it is here that we'll move beyond our old self, our old identity, and that trailer of garbage from the past that we like to pull into the future, but really need to ditch that hitch. It is here that we'll move into that place of reinvention and embracing the newness of it all. Are you ready to step into reinventing thyself? Because guess what? It is never too late, and your time is now. Let's get started. Good morning. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself, whether you are catching this on podcast or on video. I am glad that you are here today because today we are going to tap into energy. And I'm not talking about the energy that comes through your light switch or the energy that radiates down electrical poles. This is a different kind of energy. And we are going to look at both the feminine and the masculine energy. Now, I'm not exactly sure. We'll see how long this goes, but I intend to put both energies into one podcast, one video. However, if it gets too long, I may take a break and make this a two-part series, but we'll just see how it goes. Just checking my time right now to see where I'm starting so that if it gets too long, I can cut it off. I know for some people, it's just easier to digest. It's easier to reflect on, take in when it is a little bit a smaller piece. Now, if you don't know what I'm referring to in terms of energy, have no fear because I'm going to start from scratch with that. So again, if this is your first time here, my name is Michelle Shutter, and I really love to support women, especially in that place of reinventing thyself. You know, when there's times that come up in your life where you know you have to pivot, you're supposed to lean into the pivot, but that whole place of change and being uncomfortable just isn't your cup of tea. Well, this podcast, these videos are all about really leaning into that pivot and embracing the newness of change. Because if we truly want that fulfillment to really use our gifts in a unique way, there are times in our life that we do have to reinvent ourselves. And what you may not realize is that you do it all the time. And today, having a better understanding of these energies will definitely support you when it comes to reinventing thyself. So let's get into this today. Well, first of all, let's talk a little science here. Energy is everything. Everything is energy, whether it is physical, a non-physical, a feeling, an emotion, a thought. When you break everything down to the smallest particle ever, it is energy. And one of the ways that people look at energy is a feminine energy and a masculine energy. I also use 7 different levels of energy, but I will save that for another day. Today, we're just going to focus on feminine energy and masculine energy. Now, when you think of feminine, you automatically think female, right? When you think of masculine, you automatically think male. Well, these energies are not gender specific. They are actually in both males and females. Now, the majority of females generally have a core essence of feminine energy, or that's their dominant energy. And males generally have a core essence of masculine energy. However, depending what you are doing in your days, in your weeks, in your months, you absolutely need to utilize both types of energy, depending on the activity, again, depending what goals perhaps you've set, or perhaps it's just finding that place of flow. Now, uh, everyone, as I mentioned, has a dominant energy. And throughout our days, throughout our weeks, it's very fluid, right? We flow between both energies. The problem begins to arise when we neglect that energy or that flow, and we stay in one energy and we don't move between the two. And when we get into one energy for any extended amount of time, it really doesn't serve us well. And that can lead to breakdown. It can lead to overwhelm. It can lead to a lot of stress. And it's really important that we create this awareness of these different energies so that we can see exactly how we are showing up. And that's one thing that I like to think about in terms of energy. So I use a lot of energy leadership, right? And it's basically when you break it down into simplest form, it's how do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to show up, and how do you want to be aware and conscious of what is going on and what is happening around you? So let's talk about these energies a little bit more. So within the masculine energy and within the feminine energy, there's a divine energy. And the divine energy is that energy that really supports us and makes us feel good and moves us in the right direction. However, within that umbrella of feminine energy and umbrella of masculine energy, there's also wounded parts of us. And when we are operating from those wounded parts, again, that doesn't serve us. So when we talk about feminine energy, it's really life, right? It's the flowing. It's like the ocean in a sense, and the waves and the movement and the beauty of it all. And the masculine energy likes to be still and anchored, but yet it likes to be on its edge, right? It likes the risk of things. And so I'm going to give you just some different characteristics that are within a divine feminine energy and a divine masculine energy. And then really just take note of how does this resonate with me? Where do these characteristics show up in my life? Is it like in relationships? Is it in my work? Is it perhaps something I want more of? And if it is, like, how do I do that? So let's talk a little bit about the divine feminine. Well, the divine feminine is really playful, creative, is magnetic and loving and very empathetic and compassionate and nurturing and yet at times very vulnerable. And that, even just that word vulnerable, really is something that doesn't always sit well with people, because so many people still see being vulnerable as a place of weakness rather than strength. That divine feminine energy is also like heart over head, right? She's very heart-centered. And again, please remember that, again, it's not gender specific. That's just kind of using my my energies as well within this. She's all about love and unconditional love, and really trusting and open and just nurturing. And that whole place of being in a divine feminine energy is something that I believe women have kind of pushed to the side in a sense. And when I say push to the side, we went into this place of being a giver, rather than also being a receiver, because the feminine energy is about receiving. And so those are just some characteristics of a divine feminine energy. Now, the divine masculine energy is all about really being decisive and strong and intelligent and being a provider and focused and logical. The divine energy also wants freedom, right? Like that is really important to that masculine energy. It grows from a challenge. It really loves to also protect loved ones. And a lot of times that masculine energy can feel a lot of pressure. However, that masculine energy wants to be released from that pressure to experience freedom again. So that whole piece of freedom. That masculine energy is also, as I mentioned, disciplined and focused. So when you think about like making goals or, checking things off your to-do list in a sense, that is just all that masculine energy. And both energies are equally important, right? So let's say you are, let's say you're starting a new business, like that's what you want to do, right? You want to reinvent yourself and start a new business or start a business or transition out of a career. Well, that masculine energy is going to be super important, right? Because you're going to want to be disciplined. You're going to want to be focused. You're going to want to have your goals. But being in that masculine energy all the time, if you are at your core essence, a feminine energy, if that is your core essence, feminine energy, it is going to stress you out. It's going to overwhelm you. It is going to burn you out. So you have to be able to dance between both energies. So perhaps, part of your day is in that masculine energy, but then you have to allow yourself time to also slip back into that feminine energy. Because when you come from that feminine energy as well, when building your business, like that's where your creativity shows up. That's where, you're playful and that whole place of being like assertive in it all and really trusting your gut and your instincts and your intuition when building something new. Now, I just use building a business as an example, but you can see how this also will apply to relationships, to your job, your profession, to really any aspect of your life. So again, it's, how do you want to show up? And where can you make some tweaks or some improvements so that you are able to flow back and forth between the two? So let's move now a little bit into the wounded part of each energy, because in that wounded part, it's an unhealthy space for us to be in. And that wounded part of us comes from ego. It comes from fear. It's that dark side, a lot of pain that may be associated with that wounded side. But yet, when I go through these characteristics, it almost appears like these are conditioned to be okay, that these are just the way life is. And it isn't. It is just that we are operating from a wounded energy. So when we look at the wounded side in terms of the feminine energy, that's when insecurity shows up. That's where the wounded feminine is a super needy side. That is where we may go into passive aggressive. We feel unappreciated. We sacrifice ourselves and put everybody else first. We self-sabotage ourselves. We don't put any boundaries on things. We're self-destructed. We're really attached to the outcomes. And so when you look, and again, these are just a few characteristics here, but again, when you look at these energies and you feel into those really have a lower vibrational energy. And so if we are operating from this wounded place all the time, and so when I say vibrational energy, and for those of you that are listening on podcasts, like I have my hands low, okay? And I want you to imagine whatever you want is higher, right? So I just moved my second hand up about 7 inches or so, okay? If you are operating at your lower hand, if that's where your vibrational energy is, you are in a mismatch to what you truly want, which is where your upper hand is. You cannot achieve where your upper hand is unless you raise your vibrational energy, unless you bring that lower hand up and create a match. So some of this is challenging to look at, right? Because being passive aggressive or being manipulative or being super attached to an outcome, um, being insecure. Like some of that is just challenging to look at because it doesn't feel good to us. But yet it's super important to create the awareness of that's where I'm operating from so that I know how to make a change. Now, let's get into the wounded masculine, right? The wounded masculine is all about control. The wounded masculine is stuck in the mind, judgmental, critical, a lot of blaming and shaming come out of that wounded masculine energy. The strong need to be right, avoids connection, super attached to success. So when we feel into that energy, again, it's a super low vibrational energy. And so what we desire, what we want, has a higher vibrational energy, and yet we're at a mismatch of it. And so when you go back to some of the divine energy, the divine characteristics in feminine of being loving and magnetic and creative and playful, and some of the divine masculine of being honest and accountable and focused and intelligent and efficient, like those energies just feel better. They just feel better. Now, the one thing I want to point out about the wounded energies is that it isn't our fault in a sense that we're operating from those wounded energies, because they come on and we take them on, as I mentioned before, almost like it's been conditioned in us, or that's just the way life is, right? However, it is our responsibility to work through those, to heal those wounded energies, to shed light on them so that we can transform that energy into something that serves us so much greater. Now, one thing about energy that I didn't mention is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So if we, again, I'm going to use that example. If we're operating at a low feminine energy, and yet we want something that is higher, and even if we're at a low masculine energy, but we're desiring something that's higher, that has a higher vibrational energy, it's a mismatch. So in order for us to make that a match, we have to transform the energy that we're operating in, that lower vibrational energy. Now, what I want you to think about is this. Pick out some different areas of your life, whether it's work, whether it's relationship, career, finances, kids, really anything, your health, right? Anything in your life. And I want you to think about, are you operating from a wounded energy in those areas, or are you operating from a divine energy? And divine is fine, and wounded, it can be fine too, right? There's no judgment around anything. But again, you get to decide how you want to show up. So if you're striving for something and it's not working out for you, perhaps you want to look at these energies and think about, am I operating from a divine energy, or am I operating from a wounded energy? And it all starts with awareness. You can't make a change if you don't know it doesn't exist. And so I'm hoping, like my intention of this episode was to do just that, like create some awareness for you around feminine and around masculine energy. Once you're aware of it, then you can shed some light on it and decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to stay in this space of wounded energy, or can I transform it in a way to bring in more divine energy that will support me and serve me so much greater? And the third thing then is just like take action on it. Take action on it. Move in the direction that you want to go. Now, when we have these two energies that are balanced, that are fluid, that are flowing, that's the way that we can begin to like heal inside out. But when we are stuck in a way where we keep operating from that wounded energy, it gets exhausting and it doesn't serve us and our gifts and really the intentions that we bring forth each and every day. So if you're looking for some support around that, make sure that you reach out to me, because I would love to jump on a call with you and just move you through some of these energies so that we can create more awareness for you and you can begin to shed the light on things so that you can transform this energy, that it serves you so much greater. So in order to do that, again, you can message me. The details on how to reach me are in the show notes in the description, and they're also in the shortcuts that I have for you. So really tapping into our energies, our masculine and our feminine energies, both divine and wounded, will serve us in one way or another. One way will serve us in a higher level, one way will serve us at a lower level. However, when you're reinventing yourself, it's all about shortcuts, right? Like why don't we want to shortcut things and move into where the direction we want to go a lot faster? And so I have a download for you that you can access those shortcuts at www.reinventingthyself.com. All you have to do is enter your name and email address. You can download that. And within that PDF is also a way to book a call with me. So would love to support you on these energies. I love talking energy. I love really looking at these energies from through different lenses, through different perspectives. And one thing I probably should have mentioned earlier as well is that, how do you know if you're a core essence feminine energy, or how do you know if you're a core essence masculine energy? Well, one of my mentors had shared this with me as well. And he had said, it's a simple question. And how you answer this question is really identifies if you're feminine core essence or masculine core essence. And that question is, would you rather be cherished or respected? And I'm pausing here for a second because I want you to go with what pops into your head first. And I'm going to ask you one more time, and then I'm going to pause again because I want you to have an answer in your head before I give you the answers to these questions. So the question again is, would you rather be respected or cherished? And again, just go with what pops into your head first. Because if you would rather be respected, your core essence is masculine energy. If you would rather be cherished, your core essence is feminine energy. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't change. It doesn't mean that it's written in stone. It doesn't mean that you don't use a different dominant energy based on the task or activity that you're doing. But overall, if you would rather be respected, it's a masculine energy. And if you would rather be cherished, it's a feminine energy. So that is it for today. I'm looking at my time, and I think we're just going to leave this as one episode rather than breaking it into two. And remember, if you are looking to shortcut in terms of reinventing thyself, because again, we do it all the time, make sure you head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com. Through that PDF, you can also book a call, a 20-minute reinventing call that is of no cost to you, and would love to support you in these different energies. So that is it for today. Today, my wish for you is that you just continue to be amazing and increase your amazingness and lean into that pivot that is showing up for you, because it wouldn't show up if you weren't ready. Intellectually, you may think, I'm not ready, I can't do that. But when you tap into your heart and the core of really who you are and what you're supposed to do, it's here for a reason. So embrace the newness of change, and I'll see you next time. Well, what are you waiting for? Whether you've pivoted and are unsure or you're on the verge of pivoting, there is no better time than now for you to begin. Want to know why? Because if it wasn't the right time, the pivot wouldn't have shown up. And to get you started, I've got 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. Just head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com and you can download it there. And don't forget to message me with the shortcut that resonates with you the most. One last thing, I know you and I are not the only ones that have leaned into the pivot. Be sure to share this with others so they can be supported too. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me and sharing this message. Until next time.